Archangel Michael has been standing beside you long before you learned how to name the feeling of being protected without proof, long before you understood why certain dangers never reached you, long before you realized that the strength you carry did not come from ease but from endurance, because there were moments in your life when things could have gone very differently, moments when one wrong turn, one wrong decision, one wrong influence could have changed everything, yet somehow you were redirected, delayed, or quietly removed from harm, and at the time it felt frustrating, confusing, even unfair, but now your soul is beginning to recognize that this was never punishment, it was protection, and Archangel Michael was present through all of it, unseen but unwavering, guarding paths you could not see, closing doors you begged to stay open, and holding back outcomes that would have cost you far more than you were prepared to lose, because protection is rarely loud. It does not announce itself, it does not demand gratitude, it simply stands firm while you learn how to stand on your own, and you have learned, slowly and often painfully, how to remain upright even when life leaned heavily against you, how to keep moving forward even when clarity was missing, how to trust your inner compass when external voices tried to pull you off course. And Archangel Michael has witnessed every silent battle you fought without applause, every time you showed restraint when anger would have been justified, every time you chose integrity over convenience, every time you held your ground while others expected you to fold, and these moments mattered far more than you know, because they shaped your spiritual posture, they trained your discernment, they refined your strength into something steady rather than reactive, and that is why your journey has felt slower than others, not because you were behind, but because you were being built to last, because speed was never the goal for you, alignment was, and alignment takes time, it requires pressure, it demands honesty, and it often requires walking alone until you can hear your own truth clearly. And there were seasons when that loneliness felt heavy, when you wondered why support disappeared just when you needed it most, why people you trusted drifted away without explanation, why situations that once felt safe suddenly became uncomfortable. But Archangel Michael knew that what was leaving was not meant to follow you into the next chapter, that some connections were only meant to escort you part of the way, not all the way. And separation was not loss, it was clearance, space being created for something stronger, more stable, more aligned with who you are becoming, and even when your mind resisted this truth, your spirit adapted, you learned how to listen inwardly, how to pause before reacting, how to choose peace without confusing it for weakness, and this is where your power began to change, not outwardly at first, but internally, where real authority is formed, because true strength does not need to dominate, it knows when to wait, when to act, and when to let go, and Archangel Michael stands with those who understand this balance, who are willing to release control in order to gain clarity, who are willing to be patient in order to be precise, and you have demonstrated this again and again, even when it cost you comfort. Even when it delayed recognition, even when it tested your faith in unseen outcomes, and that faith did not go unnoticed, because every time you chose not to become bitter, not to harden, not to abandon your values under pressure, you strengthened an invisible armor around your life, an armor that now allows you to move forward with calm confidence rather than fear, and this is why you are sensing a shift, subtle but undeniable, a feeling that the constant resistance is easing, that the lessons are integrating, that the effort you invested internally is beginning to stabilize your external world, because preparation always precedes manifestation, and you have been preparing longer than most, learning lessons others avoid, facing truths others deny, and Archangel Michael has remained present through this preparation, not rushing the process, not interfering unnecessarily, but ensuring that nothing essential was lost along the way, that your character remained intact, that your purpose remained protected. And now, as you stand at this point in your life where you are no longer chasing validation but seeking alignment, no longer reacting to every disturbance but choosing where your energy belongs, no longer defining yourself by past struggles but by present awareness, Archangel Michael draws closer, not as a rescuer, but as a confirmer, affirming that the path ahead is steadier than the one behind, that the ground beneath you is stronger than it used to be, that the wisdom you carry now will prevent you from repeating cycles that once drained you, and this realization begins to settle into your nervous system, bringing a sense of calm that does not depend on circumstances, a sense of security that does not require constant reassurance, because you know now that you are not unprotected, you never were, you were simply growing into awareness, and awareness changes how you move, how you choose, how you respond. It sharpens your intuition, strengthens your boundaries, and anchors your decisions, and Archangel Michael remains beside you as this awareness expands, not pushing you forward aggressively, but supporting your pace, respecting your timing, ensuring that as you step into what comes next, you do so grounded, clear, and confident, carrying forward not the weight of what you survived, but the strength you gained from surviving it. And this is only the beginning of a new rhythm in your life, one defined less by struggle and more by stability, less by reaction and more by intention, and Archangel Michael stands ready to walk with you through this next phase, just as he always has, quietly, powerfully, faithfully, as you continue forward, protected not because you are fragile, but because your purpose is valuable. Archangel Michael remains with you as the rhythm of your life begins to change, not suddenly, not dramatically, but in a way that feels grounded and real, the kind of change that settles into your bones rather than shocking your senses, because real transformation rarely announces itself, it reveals itself quietly through consistency, through the way your reactions soften, through the way your decisions gain clarity, through the way your spirit no longer panics at uncertainty. And Michael knows that this steadiness is the result of everything you endured without losing yourself, everything you questioned without abandoning your values, everything you carried without asking the world to understand. And this is why the next phase of your journey does not require you to fight harder, it requires you to trust deeper, to recognize that the protection surrounding you is not fragile, it is established. It has been built through years of refinement, through lessons learned the long way, through patience practiced when shortcuts were tempting. And as you move forward now, you may notice that situations that once drained you no longer have the same power, that conversations that once pulled you into doubt no longer linger in your thoughts, that old triggers feel distant, not because they disappeared, but because you grew beyond their reach. And this growth is not accidental, it is the direct result of alignment, of choosing truth over comfort, of choosing long-term peace over short-term relief. And Archangel Michael stands as a witness to this evolution, reinforcing the boundaries you now hold without guilt, the discernment you now trust without hesitation, the confidence you now carry without needing validation, because your strength is no longer reactive, it is rooted, and rooted strength does not need to prove itself, it simply stands. And as you continue, you may sense opportunities approaching that feel different from the ones before, opportunities that do not demand you abandon yourself, that do not require you to compromise your integrity, that do not drain your energy before they even begin. And this is a sign that your internal alignment is beginning to reflect externally, that the work you did within is shaping what arrives without, because life responds to clarity. It responds to grounded intention, it responds to a spirit that knows its direction. And Archangel Michael supports this process by guarding your focus, by helping you recognize what deserves your attention and what does not, by strengthening your ability to pause before committing, to listen before deciding, to observe before acting, and these pauses are not delays, they are refinements. They ensure that when you move with precision, and precision saves energy, time, and unnecessary struggle, and you have learned the value of this through experience, through moments when rushing cost you more than waiting ever did, through situations where patience revealed truths that haste would have missed, and now, as you apply this wisdom naturally, your life begins to feel less chaotic, less reactive, more intentional, and this intention creates a sense of safety within you, a knowing that even if circumstances shift, you remain centered, that even if challenges arise, you are not destabilized, because your foundation is strong, and Archangel Michael stands with those who build strong foundations. Not flashy ones, not temporary ones, but foundations that endure pressure, that remain steady through seasons, and this steadiness begins to influence the people around you, not through control, but through presence, because calm is contagious, clarity is grounding, and others may begin to seek your perspective, your guidance, your reassurance, not because you have all the answers, but because you listen deeply, because you speak honestly, because you do not exaggerate or minimize reality. And this role is not a burden, it is a reflection of the authority you have cultivated quietly, authority rooted in experience rather than ego, and Archangel Michael supports you in holding this authority responsibly, reminding you to protect your energy, to choose rest without guilt, to step back when needed, because leadership, whether visible or subtle, requires balance, and balance is maintained through self-awareness, through knowing when to engage and when to withdraw, when to speak and when to remain silent, and you are learning this balance intuitively now, guided by an inner sense of timing that grows stronger the more you trust it, and this trust allows you to move forward without the constant need for reassurance, without the fear of making the wrong choice, because you understand now that mistakes are not failures, they are feedback, they are part of refinement, and Archangel Michael does not expect perfection, he supports progress, he supports sincerity. He supports a willingness to learn and adjust, and this perspective frees you from the pressure that once weighed heavily on your decisions, the pressure to get everything right immediately, the pressure to meet expectations that were never aligned with your truth, and as this pressure lifts, your creativity expands, your confidence stabilizes, your sense of possibility widens, because you are no longer operating from survival. You are operating from intention, and intention attracts different outcomes, outcomes that are sustainable, outcomes that respect your limits, outcomes that align with your long-term vision, and you may not have all the details of that vision yet, but you have a feeling, a direction, a quiet certainty that you are moving towards something meaningful, something that integrates who you are rather than fragments you. And this certainty is enough for now, it provides momentum without anxiety, progress without panic. And Archangel Michael remains present as you navigate this space, not rushing you toward a destination, but supporting each step you take with awareness, ensuring that you remain connected to your values, that you remain grounded in your purpose, that you remain open to learning without losing confidence. And this support allows you to release the need to control every outcome, to trust that what is meant to align will align, that what is not will naturally fall away, and this trust creates space for ease, not because life becomes effortless, but because your relationship with effort changes. You apply it where it matters, you conserve it where it does not, and this discernment protects your future as much as any external defense ever could, and as you continue forward, you may notice moments of quiet affirmation, moments where things fall into place without struggle, where conversations bring clarity rather than confusion, where decisions feel settled rather than conflicted, and these moments are confirmations, gentle reminders that alignment is working, that your path is supported, that your patience is yielding results, and Archangel Michael stands as a steady presence through all of this, not demanding devotion, not requiring acknowledgement, but offering protection through guidance, strength through steadiness, and reassurance through consistency, reminding you that you are not walking alone, that you never were, and that the calm confidence you are developing now will carry you through whatever comes next, because you are no longer defined by what you endured, you are defined by how you integrated it, by how you grew from it, by how you chose to move forward with wisdom rather than resentment, and this choice has changed everything, even if the full impact is still unfolding, and Archangel Michael remains beside you as it does, guarding your progress, supporting your clarity, and reinforcing the truth that your life is not fragile, it is resilient, it is intentional, and it is moving steadily toward a future shaped by awareness, stability, and purpose. Archangel Michael continues to walk beside you as your awareness deepens and your life begins to respond differently to your presence, because something subtle yet powerful has shifted within you, a shift that does not announce itself loudly but makes itself known through calm decisions, steady emotions, and a growing sense of inner order, and Michael understands that this stage is just as important as the struggles that came before it, because building stability requires as much courage as surviving chaos, and you are learning how to hold peace without sabotaging it, how to accept ease without waiting for something to go wrong, how to trust consistency after years of unpredictability, and this learning is not passive, it is active, it requires restraint, self-awareness, and the willingness to let go of patterns that once felt familiar but no longer serve you. And Archangel Michael supports this process by strengthening your discernment, helping you recognize the difference between intuition and impulse, between genuine opportunity and familiar distraction, between what aligns with your future and what only echoes your past, and this discernment begins to guide your choices more clearly now, influencing who you engage with, how you spend your time, what you tolerate, and what you no longer excuse, and this clarity is not harsh, it is precise, it allows you to act without guilt, to set boundaries without anger, to move forward without needing closure from every unfinished chapter, because you are beginning to understand that not every story needs an explanation, some only need acceptance, and acceptance frees energy, it returns focus, it restores momentum, and Archangel Michael stands with you as you reclaim this energy, ensuring that it is invested wisely, that it is not scattered across regrets, resentments, or hypothetical futures, but anchored in the present moment where real power exists, and as your focus stabilizes, you may notice that your confidence no longer fluctuates as wildly as it once did, that setbacks feel manageable rather than catastrophic, that challenges feel like problems to solve rather than threats to survive, and this change reflects a deeper sense of security within you, a security that does not depend on constant reassurance or external approval, because you have developed trust in your ability to navigate uncertainty. And Archangel Michael reinforces this trust by reminding you, quietly and consistently, that you have already survived situations you once thought were impossible, that you have already adapted to changes you never wanted, that you have already rebuilt yourself more than once, and this history matters, it proves your resilience, it validates your strength, it confirms that you are capable of handling what comes next, and this confirmation allows you to approach the future with measured optimism rather than fear, with preparedness rather than panic, and this mindset begins to shape the opportunities that come your way. Because life responds differently to grounded individuals, it offers them paths that require responsibility rather than reaction, growth rather than escape, and you are becoming someone who can hold responsibility without losing balance, who can pursue ambition without sacrificing well-being, who can move forward without abandoning values. And Archangel Michael supports this balance by helping you stay connected to your core intentions, reminding you to check in with yourself regularly, to listen to your internal signals, to adjust when something feels misaligned, because alignment is not a one-time achievement, it is an ongoing practice, and you are practicing it now through conscious choices, through honest self-reflection, through the willingness to pause when necessary, and these pauses are not setbacks, they are recalibrations, they prevent unnecessary detours, they preserve clarity, and as you integrate this approach, your life begins to feel more coherent, less fragmented, more intentional, and this coherence brings a sense of peace that is not dependent on circumstances, a peace rooted in self-trust, in the knowledge that even if outcomes are uncertain, your response will be measured, your actions will be thoughtful, your foundation will remain intact, and Archangel Michael remains present through this integration, not intervening unnecessarily, but offering guidance through subtle impressions, through moments of insight, through a growing sense of inner alignment that feels both grounding and empowering, and this empowerment does not manifest as dominance or control, it manifests as clarity, patience, and quiet confidence, qualities that allow you to navigate complexity without becoming overwhelmed, to engage challenges without losing perspective, and this capacity becomes increasingly important as your responsibilities expand, as your influence grows, as your decisions begin to affect not only your own life but the lives of others, and Archangel Michael supports you in stepping into this expanded role with humility and awareness, reminding you that leadership, in any form, begins with self-regulation, with the ability to remain centered under pressure, to listen before reacting, to act with integrity even when compromise would be easier, and you have demonstrated these qualities repeatedly, often without recognition, often without immediate reward, but those efforts were not wasted, they were investments in your character, and character determines sustainability. It determines whether success becomes a burden or a platform, whether growth becomes overwhelming or empowering, and as you continue forward, you may notice that you are less drawn to chaos, less interested in drama, less tolerant of environments that thrive on instability, and this is not avoidance, it is maturity. It is the natural response of a system that has learned what it needs to function well, and Archangel Michael encourages this maturity, reinforcing your right to choose environments that support your well-being, relationships that respect your boundaries, pursuits that align with your values, because protecting your peace is not selfish, it is strategic, it ensures that your energy is available for what truly matters, and as you honor this strategy, your life begins to feel more spacious, less crowded by unnecessary obligations, less pressured by external expectations, and this space allows creativity, insight, and purpose to emerge more clearly, because when the noise quiets, the signal strengthens, and Archangel Michael remains attentive as you tune into this signal, supporting your ability to recognize what resonates, what excites, what feels meaningful, and this recognition guides your next steps organically, without force, without urgency, without fear, because you are no longer chasing validation. You are responding to alignment, and alignment creates momentum that Feel sustainable rather than exhausting, and as this momentum builds, you may experience moments of affirmation, moments where effort meets opportunity, where preparation meets possibility, where intention meets outcome, and these moments are not accidents, they are reflections of internal coherence translating into external order, and Archangel Michael stands with you through these experiences, reminding you to remain grounded, to celebrate progress without becoming complacent, to acknowledge growth without becoming rigid, because flexibility remains important, adaptability remains valuable, and you have learned how to adapt without losing yourself, how to evolve without erasing your values, and this skill will continue to serve you as your journey unfolds, as new challenges arise, as new responsibilities emerge, and Archangel Michael remains committed to supporting you through these transitions. Not by removing difficulty, but by strengthening your capacity to navigate it with wisdom, patience, and clarity, ensuring that as you move forward, you do so with confidence rooted in experience, stability grounded in self-awareness, and purpose aligned with your deepest values, and this alignment becomes your true protection, your true strength, your true guide, as you continue into the next phase of your life, supported, steady, and prepared for what lies ahead. Archangel Michael stays close as your sense of direction becomes clearer and your life begins to organize itself around what truly matters, because clarity has a way of simplifying choices without making them shallow, and Michael understands that this phase requires steadiness more than speed, presence more than performance, and honesty more than certainty, and you are learning to honor these priorities naturally. Noticing how your days feel less fragmented, how your energy feels more contained, how your attention is no longer pulled in 10 directions at once, and this containment is not limitation, it is focus. It allows you to invest yourself fully rather than partially, to engage deeply rather than superficially, and as you practice this focus, you may observe that your decisions carry more weight, not because they are heavier, but because they are intentional. They are aligned with values you have clarified through experience, and Archangel Michael supports this intentionality by reinforcing your trust in yourself, reminding you that you do not need to justify every choice to be valid, that your discernment has been earned, that your perspective has been refined, and this trust frees you from overthinking, from rehearsing conversations that never happen, from second-guessing instincts that have proven reliable, and with this freedom comes a calm confidence that settles into your posture, your voice, your presence, making you less reactive and more responsive, less defensive and more discerning, and people around you may sense this shift, not as distance, but as stability, as a groundedness that feels reassuring, and Archangel Michael recognizes this influence, understanding that stability radiates outward, that one-centered individual can calm an entire environment without saying a word, and you are becoming that kind of presence, not because you sought it, but because you cultivated it through patience, through self-reflection, through the willingness to grow slowly rather than dramatically, and this cultivation has prepared you for responsibilities that require consistency, for opportunities that require follow-through, for relationships that require maturity rather than intensity, and as these opportunities appear, you may notice that they feel different from past possibilities. They do not demand urgency, they invite commitment. They do not pressure you to prove yourself, they ask you to show up as you are, and this difference is significant. It reflects a shift from survival-based choices to alignment-based choices, from reacting to circumstances to shaping them intentionally, and Archangel Michael remains attentive as you navigate this shift, offering subtle guidance through moments of reflection, through intuitive pauses, through an inner sense of right timing that grows stronger the more you honor it, and timing becomes increasingly important now. Not as a source of anxiety, but as a strategic consideration, because you understand that when you move at the right time, effort multiplies, resistance decreases, and outcomes stabilize, and this understanding allows you to be patient without becoming passive, to act decisively without becoming impulsive, and this balance enhances your effectiveness, making your actions more impactful with less strain, and as you experience this efficiency, you may feel a renewed sense of respect for your own process, recognizing that the years of trial and error were not wasted. They were training. They taught you what to pursue and what to avoid, what to prioritize and what to release, and Archangel Michael affirms this realization, reminding you that wisdom often arrives quietly, disguised as hindsight, and it is your willingness to learn from the past without being defined by it that allows wisdom to guide your future, and this guidance becomes evident in the way you handle challenges now, approaching them methodically rather than emotionally, evaluating options rather than reacting immediately, seeking understanding rather than assigning blame, and this approach does not eliminate difficulty, but it reduces unnecessary conflict, it preserves energy, it keeps you aligned with your values, and alignment continues to be your greatest asset, shaping not only your decisions but your sense of purpose, because purpose begins to feel less abstract and more practical, less like a distant calling and more like a daily practice, expressed through how you treat people, how you manage responsibilities, how you invest your time, and Archangel Michael supports this practical expression of purpose, reinforcing the idea that meaningful lives are built through consistent actions rather than dramatic moments, through reliability rather than intensity, and this perspective allows you to measure progress differently, valuing stability over speed, sustainability over spectacle, and this recalibration brings relief, because it frees you from unrealistic timelines, from comparisons that distort reality, from pressure that undermines clarity, and as this pressure lifts, your creativity expands, not as a frantic pursuit, but as a natural response to space, because when the mind is not consumed by urgency, it becomes receptive, it explores possibilities without fear, it experiments without attachment. And this creative openness leads to insights that feel timely and relevant, ideas that align with your skills and values, directions that feel both challenging and achievable, and Archangel Michael stands with you as these insights emerge, encouraging discernment without discouraging curiosity, reminding you to test ideas thoughtfully, to refine them patiently, to allow them to evolve rather than forcing immediate outcomes, because growth is iterative, it builds through cycles of action and reflection, and you have learned how to navigate these cycles with resilience, how to adjust without abandoning, how to persist without burning out, and this capacity becomes increasingly valuable as your projects, responsibilities, or roles expand, requiring you to manage complexity without losing focus, to balance ambition with well-being, to maintain momentum without sacrificing clarity, and Archangel Michael remains a steady presence through this expansion, reinforcing the importance of rest as part of productivity, of reflection as part of progress, of boundaries as part of success, because sustainability is not achieved through constant motion, it is achieved through rhythm, through knowing when to push and when to pause, and you are developing this rhythm intuitively now, guided by internal cues rather than external pressure, and this intuitive rhythm allows you to remain engaged without becoming overwhelmed, to remain motivated without becoming frantic, and as you honor it, your confidence deepens, not as bravado, but as assurance. The assurance that you can navigate uncertainty, that you can adapt to change, that you can make decisions aligned with your values even when outcomes are not guaranteed, and this assurance becomes a quiet source of strength, influencing how you carry yourself, how you communicate, how you approach challenges, and Archangel Michael stands beside you as this strength consolidates, guarding your focus, supporting your clarity, and reminding you that the stability you are building now will serve as a foundation for whatever comes next, because your journey is not about avoiding difficulty, it is about meeting it with preparedness, awareness, and integrity, and you are increasingly prepared, increasingly aware, increasingly aligned, and this alignment continues to guide you forward, step by step, with purpose and steadiness, as Archangel Michael remains present, unwavering, supporting your progress with quiet authority and enduring protection. Archangel Michael continues to stand with you as everything you have been learning begins to settle into something solid and dependable, because there comes a moment in every journey when growth stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity, when the lessons are no longer something you consciously apply but something you naturally live, and you are entering that moment now, a moment where your reactions reveal your maturity, where your choices reflect your clarity, where your presence communicates strength without explanation, and Michael recognizes this transition clearly, because it is the point where protection shifts from being something external to something embodied, something you carry within yourself through awareness, through boundaries, through self-respect that does not waver under pressure, and as you move through your days, you may notice that you are no longer trying to convince yourself that things will work out. You simply move with the assumption that you will handle whatever comes, and this assumption is not arrogance, it is trust built on evidence, evidence of your resilience, your adaptability, your capacity to recover and recalibrate, and Archangel Michael honors this trust by reinforcing your steadiness in moments that once would have unsettled you, moments where uncertainty appears but does not derail you, moments where challenges arise but do not define you, and this steadiness changes how life meets you, because life responds differently to those who are grounded, it tests them less aggressively, it offers them opportunities that require discernment rather than desperation, and you are beginning to see this shift, not necessarily through dramatic events, but through smoother interactions, clearer conversations, more respectful exchanges, and this respect is not demanded, it is invited by the way you carry yourself now, by the calm authority that comes from knowing who you are and what you will no longer accept, and Archangel Michael remains attentive as you embody this authority, ensuring that it does not harden into rigidity, that it remains flexible, compassionate, and open, because strength without compassion becomes isolation, and compassion without strength becomes depletion, and you have learned how to balance these qualities through experience, through mistakes, through reflection. And this balance allows you to engage deeply without losing yourself, to care without overextending, to commit without sacrificing alignment, and as you practice this balance, your relationships begin to reflect it, the ones that remain grow more stable, more honest, more reciprocal, while those that cannot meet you at this level naturally fall away, not through conflict, but through incompatibility. And this natural sorting is not something to fear, it is something to respect, because it creates space for connections that are grounded in mutual understanding rather than obligation, and Archangel Michael supports this process by helping you release guilt around outgrowing certain dynamics, reminding you that growth does not require justification, that evolution is not betrayal, that choosing yourself is not abandonment of others, and this reassurance allows you to move forward without carrying unnecessary emotional weight, without apologizing for becoming more discerning, without shrinking to accommodate expectations that no longer align, and as this weight lifts, your energy becomes more available for creation, for contribution, for meaningful work that reflects who you are now rather than who you used to be, and this work may take many forms, some visible, some subtle, but all of it is guided by intention rather than urgency, by clarity rather than fear, and Archangel Michael stands beside you as you engage in this work, supporting your focus, protecting your momentum, reminding you to pace yourself, because sustainability remains essential, and you understand this now. You no longer measure progress by how exhausted you are at the end of the day, you measure it by how aligned you felt while moving through it, and this shift in measurement changes everything. It allows you to build without burning out, to grow without losing balance, to pursue excellence without sacrificing peace, and this approach attracts outcomes that are stable rather than volatile, that endure rather than collapse under pressure, and you may notice that the goals you set now feel more realistic, more grounded, more connected to your actual capacity, and this realism is not limitation, it is wisdom. It ensures that what you build can be maintained, that what you create can be sustained, that what you commit to can be honored fully. And Archangel Michael affirms this wisdom, recognizing that true success is not measured by intensity but by longevity, not by speed but by resilience, and as you align with this understanding, your future begins to feel less uncertain, not because every detail is known, but because your ability to navigate uncertainty is trusted, and this trust creates calm, a calm that does not depend on external validation, a calm that remains even when plans change, even when timelines shift, even when outcomes differ from expectations, because you know now that adaptation is part of growth, that flexibility is strength, that rigidity creates unnecessary suffering, and Archangel Michael continues to guide you toward this flexible strength, reinforcing your ability to adjust without losing direction, to pivot without abandoning purpose, to learn without becoming discouraged, and this guidance becomes increasingly internal, experienced as intuition, as inner alignment, as a quiet sense of rightness that accompanies certain decisions, and you learn to listen to this sense more attentively, trusting it even when logic hesitates, because it has proven reliable. It has guided you away from harm, toward growth, through complexity, and this trust deepens your relationship with yourself, strengthening your self-respect, enhancing your confidence, and this internal relationship becomes the foundation for everything else, because when you trust yourself, you move through the world differently. You negotiate with clarity, you choose with intention, you engage with presence. And Archangel Michael supports this internal foundation, understanding that protection is most effective when it is internalized, when it informs choices rather than reacts to consequences, and you are internalizing it now, carrying forward the lessons, the insights, the resilience you have earned, and as you continue on this path, you may sense moments of quiet gratitude, not necessarily for the hardships themselves, but for the strength they revealed, the clarity they forced, the growth they demanded, and this gratitude does not romanticize difficulty, it acknowledges its role in shaping who you have become, and Archangel Michael stands with you in this acknowledgement, honoring the journey without glorifying the struggle, affirming the present without denying the past, and reminding you that the life you are building now is informed by experience rather than fear, guided by awareness rather than urgency. And this guidance will continue to serve you as new chapters unfold, as new challenges arise, as new opportunities present themselves, because you are no longer navigating blindly, you are navigating consciously, supported by a deepened sense of self, reinforced by the steady presence of Archangel Michael, who remains beside you not to direct every step, but to support your capacity to choose wisely, to stand firmly, and to move forward with confidence, integrity, and purpose as your journey continues to unfold. Archangel Michael remains with you now as this long journey reaches a place of quiet completion, not an ending that closes a door, but a settling that confirms you have arrived at a deeper understanding of yourself and your path, because every phase you have walked through was leading here, to this grounded awareness, this steady confidence, this calm strength that no longer depends on constant reassurance or external signs. And Michael recognizes this moment clearly, the moment when you stop searching for protection outside yourself and realize that protection has been woven into who you are, into how you think, how you choose, how you respond, and how you move forward, and this realization does not make you invincible, it makes you resilient, it makes you adaptable, it makes you capable of meeting life honestly rather than defensively, and that is a far greater form of strength, one that endures rather than resists. And as you stand here now, reflecting on the distance you have traveled internally, you may notice that the version of you who once doubted so deeply feels familiar but no longer dominant. That voice has softened, not because it disappeared, but because it is no longer in control, and in its place is a quieter, wiser voice that speaks with patience, that pauses before reacting, that considers long-term consequences rather than short-term relief. And Archangel Michael has supported the emergence of this voice throughout your journey, reinforcing it each time you chose reflection over reaction, each time you honored your values under pressure, each time you remained honest when distortion would have been easier, and these choices have accumulated into a foundation that now supports you effortlessly, allowing you to carry responsibility without resentment, ambition without anxiety, and commitment without self-betrayal. And this balance is rare, it is earned through experience, through missteps corrected, through lessons integrated, and Michael honors this earning, standing beside you as a witness to your growth rather than a rescuer from your past, because you no longer need rescue, you need reinforcement of the truth that you are capable, that you are prepared, that you are aligned, and as you move forward from this place, your life may not suddenly become simple, but it will become coherent, the pieces will make sense in relation to each other. Your actions will reflect your intentions more clearly, your energy will be directed rather than scattered. And this coherence brings peace, a peace that does not depend on perfect circumstances, but on internal agreement, on the feeling that your inner world and outer actions are working together rather than against each other. And Archangel Michael supports this coherence by encouraging continued self-awareness, continued honesty, continued respect for your limits, because growth does not stop here, it evolves, it deepens, it becomes more nuanced, and you are ready for that nuance now. Ready to handle complexity without losing clarity, ready to engage challenges without abandoning composure, ready to pursue goals without sacrificing well-being, and this readiness allows you to step into future opportunities with discernment rather than desperation, with curiosity rather than fear, because you trust your ability to evaluate, to choose, to adjust as needed, and this trust is liberating. It frees you from the constant pressure to predict outcomes, to control every variable, to guarantee success before taking action, and instead you move with openness, with preparedness, with the understanding that progress is iterative, that learning continues, that adaptation is part of the process, and Archangel Michael remains present through this ongoing evolution, not as a figure demanding devotion, but as a steady symbol of the principles you now live by: courage without aggression, strength without rigidity, authority without domination, and these principles guide your interactions, shaping how you lead, how you collaborate, how you support others without overextending yourself, and this balanced approach allows you to contribute meaningfully without depletion, to give without losing yourself, to remain compassionate without becoming overwhelmed, and as you embody this balance, you may notice a sense of quiet fulfillment emerging, not necessarily tied to specific achievements, but to alignment, to the feeling that you are living in accordance with your values, that your actions reflect your intentions, that your choices honor your growth, and this fulfillment is sustainable. It does not fade quickly, it does not require constant novelty, it grows through consistency, through integrity, through presence, and Archangel Michael stands with you as this fulfillment takes root, reinforcing the importance of patience as you allow it to develop naturally, reminding you that lasting satisfaction is built gradually, through repeated alignment, rather than captured suddenly through dramatic change. And this reminder helps you remain grounded even as new possibilities appear, even as responsibilities expand, even as expectations increase, because you understand now that your worth is not measured by output alone, that rest is not a reward but a requirement, that reflection is not a delay but a tool, and these understandings protect you from the cycles of overextension and burnout that once threatened your balance. And as you continue forward, you may find yourself mentoring others indirectly, not through formal instruction, but through example. Through the way you handle pressure, through the way you speak honestly without cruelty, through the way you maintain boundaries without hostility, and this influence is subtle but significant, because people learn from presence as much as from words. And Archangel Michael recognizes the value of this quiet leadership, understanding that it creates stability in environments that may otherwise feel uncertain, and this role, whether acknowledged or not, aligns with the strength you have cultivated, a strength that stabilizes rather than agitates, that clarifies rather than confuses, and as you accept this role naturally, without ego or resistance, your sense of purpose becomes less abstract and more embodied, expressed through daily choices, through consistent actions, through a way of being that feels authentic and sustainable, and this authenticity reinforces your confidence. Because you are no longer performing a version of yourself, you are living it, and this lived authenticity attracts respect, trust, and opportunities that align with who you truly are, rather than who you pretend to be, and Archangel Michael stands beside you as this alignment continues to unfold, reminding you that the journey does not require constant evaluation, that growth is happening even when it feels quiet, that progress is present even when it is subtle, and this reassurance allows you to move forward without urgency, without fear of falling behind, because you understand now that your path is not a race, it is a rhythm, and you have found a rhythm that supports your well-being, your ambitions, and your values simultaneously, and this rhythm will guide you through future transitions, through inevitable changes, through challenges that test your adaptability, because you have learned how to return to center, how to recalibrate, how to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. And this skill is perhaps the greatest protection of all, and Archangel Michael remains with you as you carry it forward, not as an external force imposing direction, but as a steady presence affirming your capacity to choose wisely, to stand firmly, and to continue evolving with integrity. And as this story reaches its natural pause, not an ending but a continuation, you are left with a sense of quiet assurance, a knowing that you are not lost, not late, not unprepared, but exactly where you need to be, equipped with awareness, supported by experience, and guided by a strength that has been patiently built over time. and Archangel Michael stands beside you in this knowing, silent but steadfast, as you move forward into whatever comes next, grounded, clear, and ready to live the life you have been preparing for all along.